Yo, what's up guys? Nightshade here. In this video, I want to talk to you guys about creative spaces. Now, I'm absolutely obsessed. Just the first day, I accidentally did a 25-hour building stream, took a nap, and then came back to do another 9 hours before my internet cut me off, because I guess someone had to. Recently, I feel like the PSO2 community has been really split, and it makes me sad, but sometimes things like this happen. But the release of creative spaces has brought a lot of us back together. Even players who aren't into that kind of content or didn't think that they would enjoy it have mentioned that they really enjoy creative spaces. It's really nice to see the creativity from the community in general. I've already felt like most of you guys were extremely creative, but this is on an entirely different level. Even people who feel like they're not creative have made some amazing things and find themselves having fun. With spending so much time in creative spaces, there are a lot of things that stood out to me. There are some features that feel really comfy, and other features that feel completely awkward. And then you have features that almost feel like they're missing. I really enjoy sandbox games and pretty much anything that has customization. And with playing so many of these, I have a general idea of what I expect to see in features like this. But even players who really don't play those kinds of games can agree on some of these things. First and foremost, we're going to start with the undo redo button. Now, they've already said that they did not give us that undo redo button because we have the ability to have multiple players building at the same time, and it would cause problems. It makes sense. Next thing is an empty plot or clear island feature. When you go to your creative space for the first time, it starts with a little house as well as some trees and rocks. Now, there are costs to items that you place down, so it would be nice to be able to just get rid of everything at once, like you can do with resetting the terrain or resetting the entire creative space to default. I've deleted everything on the map from one of my spaces, and it really doesn't take that long. It's not a huge deal. But not everyone has the same amount of patience, and I could see people getting really frustrated. Moving on, something we really need is an unlocked camera. PSO has two different ways that you can use the camera, but it can make it really difficult to get that perfect positioning when placing objects. A group select or a batch move feature would be really nice too. And what I mean by that is the ability to pick up multiple items at once and move them, or even copy and paste. We have the ability to select structures and share them with other people. However, when you place save designs in your world, you can't really customize them. You can rotate them, you can add things to them, but you can't take parts away, nor can you change the color, even if it's your own design. That actually brings me to the next thing I wanted to talk about, and that was the design system. It's a very good idea, and it is a great start. It's super cool that we can share designs like that between players, but there are a few flaws with that. The first one being that you can't customize the designs. It's a bit limiting unless you know the person who made the pattern and you have them change the color and change the items and all of that, but at that point you could have built the item yourself. Another thing with the design feature, it should be account bound. I understand the spaces themselves not being account bound because that's not how personal quarters worked in base game, but the items that we buy, the items that we purchase from the SG shop and the Genesis Point shop are all account bound. So I don't really see why that wouldn't be able to work, and I would love to see that in the future. As someone who plays on multiple ships, making a creative space from scratch can be very time consuming. I would love to take my little city from my main ship, Ship 3, and place the items I got on my other characters' creative spaces. For most people who either main one character or only play on one ship, this isn't a big deal. But not only do I have characters on all ships, I host events on all ships, so it would be really nice to be able to transfer my event room without having to completely rebuild or have to use a friend space instead. Moving on, I would absolutely love to see a cut or erase tool. We have the ability to dig in the terrain, but myself, along with a few other players I've spoken to, want to build things like caves without having to fill them in with rocks, so that would be really cool. It would also be very nice if this tool worked with build objects, so just in case you don't align something properly, you'd be able to erase the extra pieces. Before we move on to bugs, the last thing I would like is an invite setting. You have the ability to allow friends in, and technically you can just lock them in with you so no one else can join. But to make this a little bit more convenient, it would be nice if you could set it to invite only, invite your friends, and make things a bit less difficult. Now, I want to move on to bugs that I've experienced or heard other people have experienced, and I would love to see these fixed. The first one is the weather. You're supposed to have the ability to control what the weather is like, just like a photo room. However, in the creative space, it's extremely bugged. Sometimes you can get it to last, maybe 30 seconds, but most of the time it instantly snaps back to whatever the default weather is. Next is the control switch. And I've asked a lot of people about this, and no one else I've talked to has been experiencing this. But when I'm in the creative spaces, sometimes it changes my key bindings. I use a controller, and most of the time it's only one button. I have left bumper set to switch the palette, and randomly it'll change to right bumper while I'm building. If I leave it alone, sometimes it changes back, or sometimes I have to reload the room. So it's not the biggest deal, but it does get kind of annoying when I can't figure out why I'm unable to get out of a menu. The next thing is the grid snapping. Now, I was actually really excited to see grid snapping and the ability to switch on and off so you're not tied to the grid. However, grid snapping does not always work correctly. And it can be frustrating when you try to snap things together, but they snap in two different spots. You can adjust things without the snap, but it does make it a lot more difficult to get the lines even. The last thing, and I've only run into this bug a few times, is the creative space menu. So the menu you use to go to either your creative space, a friend's creative space, or back to the open world doesn't work properly sometimes. I've had it do things like select the wrong creative space, or when I look up a player's creative space and it's set to public, it'll show nothing. And I've even had a moment that I tried to select my other creative space, and when you're in a creative space, it's grayed out on the menu, but both of them were grayed out and it would not let me transfer creative spaces, which was really frustrating, and I had to log out to fix that. It's an easy fix, but it kind of sucks when you're in the zone or you get really inspired by an idea and you just want to put it together right now. Alright guys, that is it for our video. I am really enjoying creative spaces. I took this opportunity to show you my creative space that I'm extremely proud of in the background. If you're on Ship 3, make sure you come visit me. If you're interested in seeing me build or just play PSO in general, make sure to check out my Twitch. I'll leave a link in the description. And you can also check out my VODs that I post here of past Twitch streams, and I will leave a link to that playlist in the description. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching. Stay comfy!